it's Rhian Michelle and I am back with another video. Sparkle, sparkle. Today I am joined by a very special guest. Wee! This is Ren. Say hi. Say hi to the people. She is about 2 months old now. Ah. Whoa. Alright, good job. So yes, today I am sharing my birth story. So when I was pregnant, I really enjoyed hearing other people's birth stories just to kind of see what the experience is like, what could happen. Some were on the more traumatic side, some on the easy laid back side. Anything could happen. Now me as a first-time mom, I had no idea what to expect. If you are a first-time mom, go ahead and comment down below. I would love to know who is watching this video. So here is my birth story. So she was due on June 5th and she wasn't born until the 13th. So I was a week overdue. Now we all thought that she was gonna come early, which of course was not the case. So up until my due date, I was convinced every day that today was the day. I would wake up ready to go. And once my due date came and went, I started thinking, it is never going to be the day. She's never going to come out of me. So I just stopped expecting her to come. It was Sunday night. The next day on Monday, I had an appointment and they were going to have me set an induction date. I really wanted to go as natural as possible, so I was just hoping and praying that I did not have to be induced. So I went to bed that night. 2 in the morning rolls around and I start getting some pretty bad stomach pains. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but contractions can sort of feel like bad gas pains, and you might feel like you have to go to the bathroom. So I'm awoken by some pretty bad pains. I get up to do my nightly pee, and I just keep the light off because I don't want to like wake myself up too much. So I go pee, I get back to bed, I try and lay down, and I am just so uncomfortable. So I kind of get back up, I'm sitting on the side of my bed, I'm getting up and pacing, and of course I am not convinced that these are real contractions because at this point everything else was false. But it was something that I had not experienced before. It was not very fun. So it was 2:27 a.m. when I logged my first contraction. I had a little contraction tracker app to make it really easy just to keep track of them and time them. A few more went by and finally I was like, I'm waking Seth up. I'm like, hey babe, I think I'm having contractions for real this time. He's like, huh, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm having contractions. It's happening. So he kind of like gets up and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and go to the bathroom again. So I go, I turn the light on this time, and there was a little bit of bloody show, which I had not had any of that my entire pregnancy. So I was like, okay, this is really happening. So usually they say to wait to call the doctor until your contractions are 5 minutes apart and a minute each for an hour. Now, right off the bat, my contractions were 3 minutes apart, about a minute each. But I still wait an hour to call the doctor. So at this point it's about 3:30 and I call the hospital, I get on the phone with the doctor on call. She was like, hello. You could tell that she had just woken up. And I'm like, hey, so I've been having contractions 3 minutes apart for an hour. No other questions asked. She's like, all right, you could go ahead and head to the hospital. Just come in the emergency room, give labor and delivery a call so they know you're coming. And that was that. We grab our bags, we get dressed, and of course Seth is like, can I make a pot of coffee before we go? I'm like, yeah, of course, you know, no problem. So then at this point, we're downstairs, and now my contractions are less than 2 minutes apart. They're about a minute 45 apart, still about a minute each. We were cutting it a little close, and I was like, hey, we should probably go. So he pours his coffee and we get in the vehicle and head out. So as we were leaving, I called my mom. She's in a couple towns over. She, you know, got up and started coming this way. Now, for me, sitting was more uncomfortable than standing at this point. So I'm like in the car, like holding myself up, like just trying to manage. Luckily, the hospital is only like 10-15 minutes away for us, so it wasn't terrible. It was downpouring, like to the point where I had to tell Seth, like, we do not need to rush because we don't want to be hydroplaning and getting in a crash right now, obviously. So it was pouring rain. It was crazy. And I'll get back to that in just a minute. So we get to the hospital. It's like, I don't know, 4 in the morning or something. And there's a few people in the emergency room, waiting room. And we walk out to the front desk. She's like, what can I help you with? And between contractions, all I could say was, labor. And she's like, okay, all right. She hands me some paperwork, and I'm like still like kind of pacing when my contractions hit. So I like sign a few things. I don't even know what they are. Fill out some paperwork, and she gives us directions on where we need to go, and we head down the hallway. We're with Seth's mom at this point as well. But they were like, wait, which way are we supposed to go? And I'm like, you guys weren't paying attention? Like, you think that I was comprehending where we were supposed to go? But luckily, another worker came by and pointed us in the correct direction. So we get up to the labor and delivery room, and there was nobody there. And so we're just like waiting around. And after like 5 minutes, we realize that you're supposed to pick up the phone that's at the front desk and tell them we're here. So first, Seth picks up the wrong phone and is like, hey, my girlfriend's in labor. They're like, you need to pick up the other phone to your right. Like, oh, my bad. So he picks up the other phone. Eventually somebody comes, grabs us. We go into the first room. I get undressed, put my scrubs on, get in the bed. She asked me if my water had broken, which apparently it had while we were still at home. It wasn't what I expected at all. It was like, it wasn't even really a trickle. It was just like, I was sort of extra damp, I guess, down there. So I didn't even know my water had broken, but it had. I was at 7 centimeters dilated already. So she's like, all right, we are gonna immediately go to the delivery room. I'm like, okay, and we're like walking down. When my contractions hit, I'm like singing. I'm like, ow, ow, ow. I didn't know what else to do. We get there, and you know, in between contractions, the nurses are trying to like give us paperwork, like sign this, fill this out, asking me questions. It was a little ridiculous because I was in no way like in the right mindset to be doing paperwork, but that was happening in between contractions. And of course, you know, they're trying to put the IV in just in case they have to, you know, do anything with that. So first they're on my left side, and I swear she was poking a needle in me for like 10 minutes. And eventually I hear her say like, yo, I need some help. And I am like, oh, what is going on? So then they had to change arms. So now they are on my right hand putting the IV in. So that makes it even harder to do paperwork. So eventually my body decides that it is time to push. And the nurses are like, hold on, we gotta wait for the doctor. Like, the doctor's still not here. I couldn't control it. I couldn't just stop it. It was happening. What's the problem? What's the problem? I guess we're doing this way. So eventually the doctor gets there. I am not really sure what is going on, but you know, they're like, okay, we're ready to do this. 10 centimeters dilated. We're ready to go. She's like, okay, when a contraction hits, we're gonna do 3 good pushes for 10 counts each. Take a deep breath in between each push. I'm like, okay. Like I said, I wanted to be as natural as possible, so I did not even ask for an epidural, and I asked them no Pitocin if possible, and they said, you know, we use that sometimes to like help with the bleeding afterwards, so we'll just kind of play it by ear. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we're doing this naturally. I feel a contraction come, and the nurse is counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but slower than that. And at first I was like, nothing is happening. Eventually I was saying like, I can't. But that is because I couldn't breathe. Like, I was supposed to be taking a deep breath in between pushes, but I was doing the like, I could not fully inhale, and my back was hurting pretty bad, I remember. Are you eating my hair? Okay. Okay, we gotta pause for a second. I think she's kind of content now. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was crowning, and my mom bursts in the delivery room and throws her coat and her purse down and just gets right up, and she's like, let's have a baby. Originally, I did not want anybody besides Seth in the delivery room, but I didn't really have time and they didn't even ask me, so Seth's mom was in the corner, which was fine, and of course my mom bursts in the middle of everything, which it was fine, it was okay. But remember when I was talking about the rain? I don't know if any of you heard about the historical flooding in the Yellowstone area. My mom is in one of the towns that happened in, and basically if I had called her a minute later, she probably would not have made it there, because the roads were completely flooded and destroyed by that morning, and she of course had bahawed through the flood to get through the canyon and on her way to the hospital. So that was a pretty interesting story, and she wasn't even able to go home for at least a day or two because all of the roads were closed, of course. So anyway, now my mother is here helping, and yeah, really, I just had a few more pushes to go and she was out, and they immediately put her on my chest and she instantly started licking my chin and neck right here, and has had her little tongue out ever since then. So the doctor, of course, was like, so there's a little bit of bleeding, do you mind if we give you some Pitocin? And of course at this point, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, it's fine, you know? And later I found out there might have been a little more than a little blood. When I got up to our room that we were staying in, the nurse was asking me, you know, making sure I wasn't lightheaded or anything. I'm like, you know, sometimes when I first stand up, like, it's all good. She's like, yeah, I heard you lost quite a bit of blood. I guess I did. I don't know. That's pretty normal. So everything was okay. I was just under the impression that it was a little blood, but it's okay, it's fine. Seth got to cut the cord. I had a little bit of tearing. I think it was like a 1st degree, so I got a few stitches, which was no fun, but it was, honestly, everything was better than I expected. So she was born at 5:33. So first contraction around 2 in the morning. She was born at 5:30 in the morning. So a solid 3.5 hours total of labor and delivery, which I am very grateful for. I know that I got very lucky with this because a lot of women, especially on their first child, are in labor for a lot longer than that. So, like I said, I know how lucky I am that my labor and delivery was so short and easy. There were no complications and I didn't even need an epidural or anything. I remember saying, like, if it was any longer than that, it might have been a different story. I don't know. It was definitely a rough 3 hours, I'm not gonna lie, but I was very blessed. When she was ready to go, she was ready to go. She was 7 pounds, 10 ounces. Everything was healthy. I was in the hospital for about 2 days. We stayed for 24 hours and we were under the impression we'd be able to leave the next morning, but the doctor that needed to discharge her was busy all day. So we didn't end up leaving until like 8 o'clock the next day, Wednesday, I think. She was born on Monday. Yeah, so what, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday. I don't know what day it was. The recovery wasn't as bad as I expected, but definitely wasn't super fun. What else? Did I miss anything, Ren? Healthy little perfect angel. So yeah, that is pretty much the extent of our birth story. If you enjoyed the story, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss a video in the future. Comment down below with any questions you have about my labor and delivery. If you're a first-time mom, let me know down below. If you've had kids in the past, I want to hear a little bit about your story. Anything funny, anything traumatic, anything reassuring for anybody reading down below. I want to know, so go ahead and comment down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bam.